And tonight we are inking Myles going to the zoo. Now this is going to be the last of phase 1 of the Myles Maarav's Pursuit of Happiness book project. Because now I have to go and actually write the little stories and whatnot. And by the way, that's my streaming schedule if anyone's new here. So I got to, once I finish these, I have to write some stories to go with the 26 letters of illustrations, which means next week we'll be starting on a different project. So with it being the letter Z or Z, depending how you want to look at it, what I figured was we were going to have Myles going to the zoo. And in particular, he's looking at the zebras because, again, the letter Z. So this first one, we have a juxtaposition. I haven't decided yet whether the second illustration is actually happening or whether it's just Myles's idle daydreaming. So I haven't done like a thought bubble or whatnot, but we are going to just get going. I'm going to bring that light down. And we're going to start with the buildings. So I did a couple look-sees of reference pics of zebra exhibits at zoos. I'm originally from Vancouver. We haven't had there was still a zoo when I was a little kid, but I think by the time I was in high school, the zoo was already closed at Stanley Park, and frankly, it wasn't really adequate. So, that's for the best. I think all the enclosures are still there, kind of in the area around the aquarium. Because I know probably 20 years ago, which was already long after it had closed, I was taking some photography class. I do remember that we went to Stanley Park and took photos there as part of a field trip and whatnot. So I do have a bunch of pictures of the creepy abandoned polar bear enclosures and all that sort of stuff. I don't know that Vancouver ever had zebras. Granted, I could be wrong because I'm basing that off of not remembering there being anything big enough for a zebra. But then really, the polar bear enclosure wasn't really big enough for polar bears. So I don't know. Maybe they did. I just don't remember. It's all very fuzzy in the memory of childhood field trips. But anyways, going to, let's assume that these are kind of barn door style. There is one zoo in the greater Vancouver area, way out in Aldergrove or whatnot. Excuse me. I've never been to that one. I've heard some people say it was terrible. Some people say it was great. I don't know. Because obviously people who are very much against zoos are going to say every zoo is terrible, right? And people who are fans of zoos in general are going to say that one's awesome, right? So I have no idea. I don't know. But anyways, I'm going to give this kind of barn enclosure, whatever, a bit of kind of Tudor styling. Basically because it'll be more interesting to draw that way and more interesting to look at. So what's going to happen next week actually is I'm also changing the format of the stream. So if you've had a chance to see my Zelma the Destroyer streams from the last month or so on Wednesday nights, it'll be very similar. So it'll be a horizontal landscape orientation stream. I'm going to do it with OBS so it can pop up, change between cameras and stuff like that, which means I'm going to have to remember to draw on my eyebrows before going live. But anyways, that'll be then. And what we're going to be starting with in next week's Monday stream is, I think I said it before, but some illustrations that actually involve Ricky B. the Rock and Roll Rat as well, because Myles here is Ricky's girlfriend's cousin. So Ricky is the narrator of the story we'll be drawing. Myles is actually, I think, the first drawing we actually do, though, next week. Although he technically doesn't show up in the story until 2/3 of the way through or 3/4 of the way through, but Ricky references Myles, like a past conversation he'd had with Myles. So Myles is going to be the very first illustration that we do next week. The theme of the project is going to be Ricky's Ratsville Thanksgiving. I think I had a specific title for it, but I don't know. I'm probably going to change the title, so I'll figure it out over the weekend. But one of the reasons Ricky talks about Myles right at the beginning is he comments on the fact that in Ratsville they have Thanksgiving in October, which is when Canada has it. And then he mentions that over in Mouseland, they actually have Thanksgiving in January, which Ricky thinks is very strange. And supposedly he asked Myles why, because Myles is half rat, half mouse. And Myles explained, well, we have stored food and we're thankful for the stored food in the middle of winter. Ricky still thinks that's weird, but then Myles makes the comment that he thinks that the proper time for Thanksgiving is actually at the end of April, but that's because Myles is an accountant. so he's rolling in the bucks after charging people to do their taxes. So we're going to have an illustration of Myles and Thanksgiving. Hello, IRSCD. Welcome to the stream. What am I drawing? I am drawing the back end of a zoo enclosure with one of my characters up at the front. Because I'm working with liquid ink I've got here in a shot glass. I always kind of work this direction to somewhat mitigate or minimize the likelihood that my clumsy ass will smear it with my hands. So this is going to be a zebra enclosure at the zoo. And then the second drawing we'll do tonight is going to be Myles riding a zebra. Although I haven't decided if that's something that actually happens in the story or if it's just Myles kind of idly imagining that it would be cool to ride a zebra. So that's what we're going with. And this is part of a series of illustrations for an upcoming book project. What I've done on this particular project that's a little weird for me is I've actually come up with the illustrations first. A couple for each letter of the alphabet, and then I'm going to write the stories afterwards. So usually I have the stories first and then I illustrate them, but it's been kind of fun because I've ended up drawing things I wouldn't have otherwise thought to draw. Like, I don't know that I would have necessarily gone, hey, I should draw Myles at the zoo looking at zebras, but because I was going through alphabetically, then it's like, okay, I need something for Z. And then I was like, oh yeah, zoo and zebras. So it's kind of been an interesting way to approach things. So that's the general gist of the project tonight. I was talking a little bit about the project that I'm going to be starting, because this is kind of finishing up phase 1 of the Myles Maarav's Pursuit of Happiness project. And then I got to write the stories. So in the meantime, next week we're starting on a different project that I'll be illustrating with the same character, except he'll be kind of more of a minor character, not the lead character in it. And that's a project that I want to have ready by Thanksgiving. So we're going to be kind of unseasonal for a little while. Although I think I figured out the math that by the time I finish the the Thanksgiving Day illustrations, we'll probably be hitting just about the week or two before Canadian Thanksgiving. And then, of course, my American friends celebrate a month later. So I'll be actually early for American Thanksgiving. So, and I know what I said about left to right. Of course, I started top right, but I can kind of pivot this way a little bit by putting my hand right down in the middle. So, whatever zoo, and I don't know which one it was, but whatever zoo I was looking at, they had kind of a hillside going up here um, towards the side. They also had like giraffes and zebras in the same enclosure, but we're not going to bother drawing the giraffes. We will draw. And it wasn't, there may have been a retaining wall because it was kind of, like a hillside, but I think they had just had like a normal wood plank fence and then the hillside. So if they did have any retaining wall, it's probably like right in there and that's hidden by this fence. So not that I'm copying exactly, but the idea. With that Thanksgiving thing, I was kind of going like, okay, am I gonna debating whether I would do it in full color like I do on my Tuesday streams for Noah's Archipelago with the Book of Days, but then I was like, well, because the Thanksgiving thing, the first place it's going is into like a freebie for signing up for my newsletter, like a Thanksgiving reader magnet. But then I was like, so in that sense, then yeah, sure, make it full color. Who cares, right? But then I was like, well, except I'm probably going to put that short story into a future collection of short stories, all narrated by Ricky. So then I was like, maybe we just err on the side of make the stupid thing black and white, because then when the book is black and white, I don't have to like redraw everything. So, anyways, that's probably what's going to happen. Whereas, like, the Noah one is not going into, because I'm also starting a new Noah project next week. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. But that one isn't going to be going into any book projects. That's just going to be a website freebie. So that one will, I think, stay full color. I'm just adding some texture onto this little hill. I kind of feel like adding some big old mountains in the background. Basically to really emphasize the fact that this is not the natural habitat for these zebras. Here I'm kind of thinking of like, when you go down into Victoria, BC, you can look across the Harrow Strait and you see the Olympic Mountains in Washington State on the other side of the water. Granted, they aren't that black because they're far away, but I'll have to check when I'm going down there tomorrow, because I am going down to Victoria to run errands tomorrow. But when I was there last week, I'm pretty sure you could still see whites from the glaciers and stuff in those mountains. So I'm kind of leaving some of that in here. as well. I'm kind of being random in my pen strokes because that kind of gives the sense of different gullies and ravines and stuff up on those mountains. And then the areas could have little bits of glacier or whatnot. And you know me, I gotta have some clouds in my sky. I'll probably go through with the thicker nib as well and put some shadows in. But let's kind of have some smaller shrubs and whatnot on this little hillside. Basically, we just want to put in a little bit of texture so it's not too barren on here. Actually thinking I'm going to make this tree, because it's so much clearly bigger, I think I'm going to have it on this side of the fence, which is actually pretty easy to do. We just kind of fatten up the trunk a little bit and pull it down. And then when we fill in Myles, that'll also kind of make that tree make a little more sense as well. Okay. Now, we have kind of like a little, not a step so much, but the concrete ramps that people sometimes have going from barn doors and whatnot. I want to kind of put in, I think I'm actually going to use a different pen for it. Use the glass pen if it will cooperate. It's always the thing with these glass pens. You turn them a nano turn and they draw beautifully, and you turn them a tiny fraction of a degree more and suddenly they don't. I will use the thicker pen as well here. And I kind of want the grass to look a little bit clumpy. The zebras, and we're just seeing their butts here. But they've probably eaten some weeds more than others, some grasses more than others. So, it's going to kind of mess up the nice, the lawn type of thing. So we want the grass to go a little bit wacky. And to have some plain patches where I may go in with a different pen and kind of give it a texture like it's kind of got some dirt, expose some divots in the ground, that sort of thing. All of which, of course, makes it kind of like we're taking forever to get to like the good stuff, right? The zebras and Myles down in the foreground, but that's part of the medium, right? You kind of need to do things in a certain order. I mean, you don't have to, but your life will be a lot less frustrating if you do them in a certain order of operations. the things that'd be kind of nice about switching over to horizontal streaming with OBS multiple cameras is I can use a document camera and bring it down to really zoom in on this sort of stuff. Whereas on my phone, let's see, the pen just decided that it wasn't going to draw because I moved my hand just a little bit. Then we can get a lot more close up and whatnot. Plus, I think the phone does things like trying to focus on the back end of a pen and whatnot, so it's not always perfectly in focus. But anyways, point is, it'll be better. I think when I first started, well, I know when I first started in January, I only streamed on my phone because that was kind of what I could figure out how to do initially. And then for a little bit, I think I did try a couple horizontal streams, more with using the webcam in my laptop. Or like still the document camera, but the quote unquote webcam function on YouTube. And I was like initially going like, oh, my numbers are worse when I do this. And I realized like actually though, my watch time is better. Fewer viewers, but watching longer, right? I don't know. I think that's going to be one of those areas where, oh, that's a big splotch, but okay, that was a mistake. I knew it was going to splotch. I didn't expect it to splotch that much. But I do want to add in some dark spots. So that's kind of, I guess, the sign that it's time to do that. But first, let's draw in those zebras, right? Because we are now at the zebra level. What would one of my streams be without at least one ink drop going rogue? Pretty sure zebras are supposed to be symmetrical, but we'll just ignore that for now. Worst case scenario, I can Photoshop that splotch. But, we're trying kind of make some more splotches that kind of make sense. If this was a Noah's Archipelago comic, I would probably turn that into a giant turd because it's kind of a running joke that Noah ends up having to clean up crap in the comics. I did one for a Noah book that I'm currently finishing up, where his daughter wishes for a T-Rex. So then we have a drawing of Noah, or we have a drawing of Ursula on the T-Rex going, yeah, and like being super excited. And then there's like giant T-Rex turds, you know, um, and Noah with a shovel looking very pissed off. Like even just adding that one makes that one not as not stand out as badly. I'm kind of envisioning here we're going back in and out of their enclosure. They've kind of worn down some areas just to dirt. We'll probably come back in with the glass pen all the way down to here and add some finer texture as well, but that's for later. Very poorly drawn map of the world, but indicating that they live in Africa. So nib soak again, and let's bring back the glass nib. Shake excess ink off of this so I don't end up with another one of those. And now that we know where Miles's head is, we can just bring in the outline there of the trunk. Funny with the glass nib. Sometimes the ink comes off super fine like back here, and sometimes it's almost as thick as the other ink or the other nib I was using. You know, it's part of the unpredictability of working with pen and ink. And some shadows going back here. All right, let's carry on with the usual nib. I think I've mentioned before about this being one of my favorite nibs. I'd ordered like a month ago a 12-pack of them, but I got a whole bunch in the mail. So now I've got, I wouldn't go so far as to say lifetime supply, but I have a lot of spares, which is pretty awesome because that kind of nib, it's been hard to find replacements for. Anyways, I'm going to pause for a little sip of water here. One moment. So let's get back to it. A rare sighting of Myles not wearing his usual tux coat and t-shirt, but you know, figured it's probably hot there if he's there in the summer. It's certainly hot here today. Just before I went live, I give Myles his claw. After all, he is half mouse, half rat, so he does have claws. Just before going live, I looked at, I've got one of those like weather station sort of sensor things. And it's on my back patio, in the shade, I might add, because it's a covered patio. And it's reading 34.5 as of about half an hour ago. So yeah, it's stinking hot here today. There's Myles' arm. Did I draw his arm a little too long? Probably. I'm going to put a little note in the side saying arm too long. And, you know, I may look at it when it's time to Photoshop all this stuff and kind of decide what I want to do. I may just ignore it. Probably I'll just ignore it. What other Myles news do I have here? Well, yesterday, because I know I'm getting close to having to sit down and write all these short stories about Myles, I kind of was thinking, something tells me he's a frat boy. He definitely, I mean, he went to prep school and stuff like that. He's an honest-to-God preppy. I mean, after all, last week we had him buying a yacht, so, I mean, he comes from money. Although his dad is a self-made man, more or less. Anyways, it occurred to me that Myles would probably belong to a frat when he was in university. So I did some research. Yep, see? I always smudge something. So I wasn't paying attention, put my hand down on the wet line. Okay, well, that's why I usually say, that's why I always say, but don't necessarily usually do. Top down, left, right. You know, yeah, that's okay. Anyways, I looked up how the frats do the naming conventions and all that sort of stuff. Researched the university closest to where I live now banned frats and sororities in like 2011. And it was like, when you look into it, it's like, I think the student body is like 20,000. And it was put to a vote for like a student society membership referendum or whatever. So again, should have been 20,000 people having a say. Only 500 voted, and supposedly like 64% or whatnot said to ban frats, which is to say that that was about 300 people. And it was all like spearheaded by the then head of the student society. And part of me is just like, somebody didn't get into the frat they wanted. That's my guess. Not that there had really been official frats, but anyways, compared to like UBC, when I went to UBC, and even now, like there's a bunch of frats there. I do remember when I was at UBC, they did a thing where the university kind of, I think, kind of put under duress, but worked out deals, let's just say, with the frats, where the university bought the land that their houses were on, with the exception of one. One fraternity told them to pound sand. I actually knew a guy who was a member of that, and they were like, yeah, up yours. But that frat also, I think one of the former premiers of BC was a member and all that. And it was just like, yeah, we're not doing this, and we've got connections to tell you to go to hell. So that frat still own, they don't even lease the land, like they own the land outright, because I would think the frat probably bought the land in like 1910 or something, when that was kind of in the sticks away from the campus, and now it's, it's like a 10-minute walk from the center of campus. Anyways, so at UBC, they have a fairly good, strong presence of frats and sororities and whatnot, but the University of Victoria does not. And I think there is one frat that's been trying to get recognition for like 15 years, and they can't get it and whatnot. And you kind of look and go like, yeah, that university sucks so much. I've taken like continuing ed studies and stuff at UVic, but I debated going back to finish my degree, and I was just like, I don't want to give these people money. I mean, there's a lot of nice people at that campus, but in general, I'm just like, yeah, I can't be arsed. Too old for that shit. And yeah, anyways, it was interesting to find out all this drama about why there's no frats at UVic. Definitely, I feel like Myles would have been a frat boy. Yeah, let's be honest, he would have been the treasurer of the treasurer, not treasurer, treasurer of the frat. If not the actual president. Probably not the president, but I can definitely see him being the treasurer. I guess the way that the frats choose their names is they come up with a slogan in Greek, and then the first letters of that slogan then become the Greek call letters and all that anyways. So I came up with a slogan and whatnot for Myles's old frat, but we'll leave that for when I eventually get the story that I'm thinking I've written. Probably do some illustrations of it, and we'll talk about it then. Keep filling in some little grassy bits here that we see through the bars. What Myles rests his foot on is where there's like a concrete retaining wall, and then the bars are on top of that. So he's kind of lifting his leg up a little bit onto that. Gonna let that nib soak. So let's bring back the glass one. Actually, rather than the glass one, why don't we bring in one of the slightly thicker nibs and put some shadows in that tree. That'll make it pop out a little bit more. All right, now, yeah, we're closing in on an hour on this one already. It's okay, we don't have much longer to go. More grass texture, yay! If I have to finish it, run over to finish it, both of the drawings today, well, that's just how it goes. Next week we are definitely on to the other project. Myles on his wingtips. Probably not the most comfortable thing to wear all day at the zoo, but you know, Myles, of course, has to do his own thing fashion wise as well. Looks a little goofy, but whatever. Kind of makes him actually look like he rolled his ankle a little bit, but I'm envisioning, you know, if you've ever kind of stretched your leg out and then kind of let your foot roll kind of this way a little bit. It's a bit of a weird thing to try and draw, though. back to the glass nib a little bit. I do need to color in the other leg of Myles's pants, but we'll do that in a bit. Be a little more careful than I was up there when I try and pull this out. You just kind of touch the corner of a folded up piece of paper towel, and it kind of, with capillary action, will suck up the excess ink. But you got to be careful because sometimes you can accidentally, like I did up there. I mean, I hit it, but sometimes you can accidentally kind of spread it out worse. So let's get back and finish Myles's pants. May Photoshop and thin out this leg a little bit. I don't know. Maybe he just needs the other one thicker. This is kind of a concrete, so we're going to do some dotting. I think I'm going to need to put in a bit of a more shadow over there. And that. I think I'm going to leave this page at that for now. Can always work on it more at another time. So then that brings us to the last page. On this one, Myles is riding the zebra. I haven't decided yet in the story if that's actually going to be something he actually does or if he's just like daydreaming, because he does do a lot of daydreaming. I was trying to get that gesture where he's like tipping his hat, right? Because he'd have like, he'd be holding the hat a little bit like that, but I'm having him kind of stick his finger out, but one finger is hidden behind, you know, anyways, the hand looks a little awkward. So we'll see how it turns out. It may have to be fixed in Photoshop or whatever, but we'll try and get it correct, or in the ballpark of correct. So, but first we got to do give it some fluffy clouds, especially if this is Myles's daydream. That's not too bad. So I was going to try and draw it imbalanced between Miles's ears, but I decided, you know what? Let's not ruin his hair. Let's not give him hat hair. Making pretty good headway on this one, actually. Famous last words now. It's probably going to take me an hour to finish. I'm going to use a bigger nib to draw on the stripes so I don't have them being quite so like sketchy. See that, and of course I'm going to make the nose of the zebra very sketchy. As I recall, they seem to have a lot of like thinner lines around the face. to the smaller pen. I think there was a period of time, probably 100, 150 years or so ago, when people were trying to see if you could train zebra to be like a pack animal or like a riding animal or whatnot. And apparently they're very stubborn. You can kind of do it, but when they were trying, I think they learned very quickly why the Africans hadn't bothered. I'm sure they probably did bother to try, millennia ago and went, yeah, it ain't worth our time. Let's go find these horsies. The horsies are nicer. Actually, I think that I'm not actually sure that there are wild horses in Africa. I know horses originally, if I understand correctly, I think horses actually evolved in North America and then ended up going across the Bering land bridge into Siberia and all those sorts of places, and then ended up somehow becoming extinct in the Americas, only to be reintroduced when the Spanish came, even though they apparently had evolved over there. But anyways, I'm probably getting some of the details wrong there, so. This angle looks wrong. Although it's kind of based on a pose reference, but I don't know. I may have to tweak. There's a bunch of things today that, oh shit, that I will definitely need to tweak in Photoshop. Let's try to fix that by making it look intentional. So maybe I shouldn't have been so quick to mop it up. I'm going to call it there. So let's have one more look. Again, we are doing the final couple illustrations for this phase of Myles Maarav's Pursuit of Happiness, which will be an illustrated short story book. But I'm starting with the illustrations instead of the stories, which is kind of backwards for how I usually work. And I've been working through the letters of the alphabet. So today is Z. That's why we're at the end of phase 1. I will have to go write the stories, and then we will, I'm sure, have more illustrations once the stories are written. But for Z or Z, depending on your preference, we've got Myles at the zoo looking at the zebra enclosure. So that is that right there. And then what we just wrapped up was him riding a zebra. Is he really riding it, or is he just daydreaming? I don't know. I haven't decided yet because I haven't written the story. So now I will sometime this week film a flip through of all the 26 letters worth of illustrations. So that hopefully will be up on Sunday, the end of June. What is it going to be, the 28th or something like that? So I already have a flip through for I think it was like the first 11 letters that I did quite a while ago now. But now we are done through Z. So like I said, next Monday, we will be doing some illustrations for Ricky and Myles. This is being Myles, but Myles is the cousin of Ricky's girlfriend. So we're going to be doing some illustrations for a Ricky narrated story about Thanksgiving in Ratsville. And we will have some Myles in there as well. And that's going to end up being a freebie for my newsletter, yada, yada, yada. I'll talk about that more next week. So that's what we're going to be working on for the next several weeks. And then we'll see when that's done. I expect I'll be working on that through September. And hopefully by then I'll at least have a few of these Myles stories written that I can then start doing other illustrations for. The book's probably not going to be out till like, God, 2028, I'm sure, at the pace I'm going. But who knows, maybe sometime in 2027, definitely not this year. Let's see here, the rest of this week. Tomorrow we are finishing up another phase 1 of Noah's Archipelago, the Noah's Book of Days. So we are doing December, so it's going to be Christmas in June. And similar thing, the week after, we will be starting a new Noah project, again, a newsletter related thing. But anyway, so that's going to be tomorrow with the markers and full color and all that fun stuff. Wednesday, we are starting a third new project, again, a newsletter thing, but it's The World According to Zamo. So we will be starting some of those illustrations for that one on this Wednesday. Thursday, we are plowing ahead with the A to Z of Noah's Job History, which is the coloring book I'm working on right now. And then Fridays for the foreseeable future, which honestly, okay, sometime into the end of the summer or the fall, we will be continuing to do inking on my graphic novel, Ricky B Goes to Sea, featuring Myles's cousin's boyfriend, Ricky. So, oh, and the other thing I'm going to say, if anybody's tuning in late or, now and wants to watch the rest, go back and watch the beginning of the stream and whatnot, I will be, when I save it, it goes private for YouTube to do its video processing, all that crap. And that's usually done sometime by about noon or early afternoon the next day. So this will be getting saved as private, and then it'll reappear magically tomorrow afternoon after I've had a chance to make it public again once the video processing is done. So thank you all for watching. We'll see you again real soon, and bye for now. Bye-bye. Bye, Myles. Condolences to the zebra that has to carry you around. Anyways, bye for now.